All right, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and today I've got my tier list for the Milwaukee Regional Championships. Milwaukee is going to be this weekend. I'm going to be in attendance, and I'm super excited for the tournament. We've had some very interesting meta developments going on since Atlanta Regionals. Some new archetypes have popped up and started to do well, and I'm going to break down all of the decks here where I think they land within the meta right now heading into the Milwaukee Regionals this weekend. We've got some new upcomers that are starting to make a name for themselves. I'm excited to talk about where they might rank here. And like I said, I'm going to be in Milwaukee, so I'm really excited to see what does well this weekend and if any other new decks can pop up. And of course, if y'all are new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 23,000 subs. And of course, if you want to enjoy the video, leave a like. I'll leave a link to the tier list down below if you want to go try it for yourself. So starting things off here, of course, we do have Dragapult, which we're going to put in like the S tier. It's the best deck in the format right now by far. There's no real competition. Well, there is competition, but there's no debate that Dragapult is the best deck right now. At the very least, it's going to be the deck to beat. I know that it hasn't been winning every single regional, right? We've seen what's been winning every regional, but I do think that Dragapult is still the best deck right now by far. There are two different variations of Dragapult that are popular. There's the Dusknoir one, and then there's the build with no Dusknoir. Both are pretty good. I think that the more common one is still most likely going to be the Dusknoir build, but the Genesect Monkey Dory build is starting to get a little bit of traction right now, also within our format. But yeah, Dragapult's S tier. I mean, going into this tournament, your deck has to have a good matchup into Dragapult, or you have to have a game plan against Dragapult, or else, well, you're not going to have a very good tournament, in my opinion. Then we have Dragapult Iron Thorns. Put that in C tier. Not great. I don't think the deck is bad. I think Dragapult Thorns is still got potential. It just hasn't really been able to do anything. But I think the deck is actually still kind of decent as a little anti-meta toolbox style deck. It's depending on how you build it. Then Pulsard. I think Pulsard's a B tier deck. It's the most average Dragapult deck. It's not better than Dragapult with Dusknoir or Dragapult with Genesect and Monkey Dory, but it's not bad either. It's definitely got some good matchups. It does help a little bit more versus Guardy when you have the Charizard line in the deck. It makes your Guardy matchup a little bit more tolerable. That's obviously one of Dragapult's harder matchups right now, is Gardevoir, so having a better matchup in a Guardy with the Charizard does help a little bit. And I think this deck is very powerful, but you don't play the Ghosts. It depends on how you build your Pulsar deck. Are you going to play Monkey Dory? Are you going to play Genesect? Are you not going to play any tech cards? It depends on how you build it. Depends on what ace spec you play too. There's a couple of different ace specs you could theoretically play in Pulsar, but I think Pulsar's actually not a bad deck. I think it's an average B tier deck. Charizard can help smooth out some of Dragapult's weaknesses. And then we have Zoroark Archaludon, which I think is another B tier deck. I do like this deck a lot right now. Zoroark is a very good draw engine right now. It's one of the better draw engines to have versus Dragapult. And I think this deck definitely has a lot going for it. It does have a bad Goldango matchup. That's and not. I mean, the Guardy matchup's a little shaky. I guess it's kind of where I stand with Archaludon in general. Is it's good. Archaludon has a great time in a Dragapult, in my opinion, if you're playing a bunch of Tauros in the deck. But the problem is you're going to be weaker versus Goldango, and you're not going to be, as good into Gardevoir, which makes the deck a little shaky. You are better into a lot of the decks around you, though. You're not bad into the Flareon deck, in my opinion. All the Terra decks, Terra Box, Raging Bolt, Terapagos, those are all good matchups, in my opinion. So you take a lot of good matchups around Dragapult, except you're just going to be a little unfavored versus Gardevoir and Goldango. Goldango's easily your worst matchup by far. Even if you play Black Belt and stuff, it's still not an easy matchup. Next up is Goldango, which we have two different variations. Dunsparce and Dragapult. I mean, if we're talking about Goldango in general, I think it's probably the third best deck right now. If we're kind of ranking where each deck stands in the format, I don't want to call Goldango an S tier deck, much like Dragapult is, but I do think Goldango is in the A tier status, probably by itself, if we're going to be honest. I think this deck is easily the second best deck in the format, or third best deck in the format, I should say. It's Goldango, Dragapult, and Gardevoir are the three decks right now that are just on their own pedestal of best deck. It depends on how you build your Goldango deck. I think Goldango Dunsparce is worse than Dragapult Goldango. Dragapult Dango is a stronger deck. But both builds are decent. I think that Goldango is a great deck. It's another deck that just happens to have a good Pult matchup, and you're also not bad into Gardevoir either. So it's not bad. I mean, you beat a lot of decks, right? You beat Archaludon. You're pretty favored into a lot of stuff, like the Blissey deck that's been popping up. Your worst matchups are going to be like Flareon and Frostlass probably isn't a great matchup either. The Zoroark deck might be a little shaky. Terrabox has always been kind of 50-50, but I think Goldengo's a really strong deck, and I think A tier is a good place to put it. I wouldn't put it as the BDIF where Dragapult is and the other deck we're going to talk about, but Goldengo definitely is an A tier for sure. I think it's the third best deck in the format right now. Flareon box, probably B tier. Another pretty solid B tier pick here. Flareon definitely has a lot going for it. It's pretty solid in a Goldengo, in my opinion. Your Guardy matchup might be a little shaky, but the good thing about playing Flareon is you get access to Sylveon, which Sylveon is just such an impressively strong card right now in the format. Like, against decks like Gardevoir and Dragapult, if you get it out, you can remove a lot of their board. So, like, you can get rid of the Dragapults and the Guardies off the board. You can do a lot of crazy things with Sylveon specifically. Flareon's pretty solid. I think it's a good B tier deck. It does have weaknesses, obviously, but it's pretty good. And one of the good things about it is, like I said, it does have a pretty good matchup versus Goldengo, which is a good thing. Hops, Zacian, probably C tier. Like, if you're going to play, like, this Hop, Zacian spread deck, it's, like, fine. We haven't really seen it, like, overperform. It does okay in online tournaments, but online tournaments isn't going to, like, exactly say that, oh, this deck is immediately what you should play to a regional championships. You know what I mean? So I would probably put Hop, Zacian in C tier. It's a decent deck. It's like a fine play. It's not the worst thing you could bring to a tournament, but it's not really all that good. It's nothing special, so probably just throw it in C tier. Terrabox. This one's weird. I think it's probably in B tier. Like, I could put it in A tier beside Goldengo, because it's actually starting to do well now. It's gotten back-to-back top 8s now at the two recent majors, but it's still, like, underdeveloped, or at least, like, it's still not the best deck ever. Like, it got a lot of hype, obviously, at the start of the format, and then, like, Dragapult immediately just shot up and was like, oh, Dragapult's just BDIF. And then Gardevoir is now, you know, also really good. And Terrabox is, like, fine, but it's not always going to beat Dragapult and Gardevoir. And, I mean, you're not always beating the two best decks right now. And even your Goldengo matchup is still, like, at the very worst, like, a 50-50. So I think Terrabox is, like, a decent deck. I would probably just place it in B tier. Like, it's a fine deck. It doesn't really do anything all that special. It does do stuff. It is a cool deck, but it's not like, it doesn't really do anything like super crazy. And then also you have like rough matchups in versus Archaludon. I think your matchup versus the Joltik tech isn't very good either. And I also think your matchup into Terapagos is still not great. And Terapagos is still probably going to be a threat. So Terrabox, I would probably just place in B tier for now. Next up is Zoroark. So the end Zoroark deck is really cool. This one's kind of hard to gauge where I would put it. I want to place it in C tier, but I also want to put it in B tier. It's a very underrated deck right now. It has a pretty good matchup versus Pult and Guardy, which is, like, insanely good. Having a good matchup versus two of the best decks is a very good thing. It also did get top 4 at the Seville SPE. The problem is, I don't know if the deck is actually legit or not. The SPE was obviously a smaller tournament, and I wouldn't really classify that as, like, the be-all, end-all of where the format is right now. And Zoroark is definitely a good deck. And I think if enough good players did pick it up, it would probably have better results for sure. For now, I'm going to place it in C tier. I think the deck is legit a good deck, and part of me does want to put it in the B tier. I don't know. Is it B tier? I'm, like, thinking about it more. Yeah, honestly, maybe it is B tier. I don't know. I want to put it in C tier because I don't think the deck is, like, all that good. But I think that it is good enough to beat the two best decks. And if you're taking good matchup versus two of the best decks in the room, it's not a bad thing. And Zoroark probably is B tier. You know what? I did believe in the deck enough to bring it to a Elite Cup, so you know what? I'll place it in a B tier. I think the deck is fine. Again, we just don't see enough good players on it right now. You know what I mean? We need like a lot more better players to start playing it, and then maybe the deck will start rising up on the ranks. Next up is Charizard Pidgeot. Honestly, like, I hate to say it, it's probably a D tier deck. Like, this is just not the time to play Charizard Pidgeot. If you're gonna play Charizard, in my opinion, literally just play Dragapult Charizard. It's like just the best Charizard deck right now. Charizard Pidgeot just feels weak in a format where you're constantly getting Budu spammed. It's just not a good time. The one thing I will say with Charizard, though, is that you are beating a lot of things around Dragapult. Like, your Guardy matchup's not bad. If you have an answer, Goldengo can be beatable. You're good into, like, Archaludon. You're not bad into Flareon, I would imagine. Actually, Flareon's probably unfavored because they have Sylveon. I don't know, like, Charizard Pidgeot just D tier. Like, it's just literally not a good time to play the deck. Like, there's just no, unless you're somebody who is like the biggest Charizard stan on the planet and you cannot live without playing Charizard Pidgeot, I would recommend not playing the deck because I don't think the deck is very good right now. You're just never getting turn 2 Charizard Pidgeot off against Dragapult and Guardy because you're getting Budded. Speaking of Guardy, S tier, yes, the two best deck right now. obviously going to be Pult and Gardevoir, the two best decks in the format by far. Gardy is winning all the regionals and tournaments, so it's like you could debate that Gardevoir is the best deck right now because it's won all the tournaments, but I still think that Dragapult is by far the best deck. Gardevoir is still good. Has its inconsistencies, though, for sure, where Dragapult is a very, very well-rounded, consistent deck. Where Guardy definitely does have the high roll sometimes. But yeah, both Guardy and Dragapult are S tier. Going into Milwaukee this weekend, you probably need to have a game plan versus these two decks. And then, of course, Goldengo is probably just behind Gardevoir and Dragapult on that ranking. Like I said, I think Goldengo is an A tier deck right now. Calling Goldengo S tier isn't ideal because like every deck now starting to put Genesect in their deck, which is really good against Goldengo. So Goldengo's now starting to get like hard countered, and that's like bad for the deck. Otherwise, if nobody was playing Genesect right now, I would probably put Goldengo in the S tier beside Guardian Pult because, like I said, I think Goldengo is by far the third best deck in the format right now. But it's starting to get countered pretty easily, and that's not good for the deck. Next up is Poison Bridge. I don't know, like A tier is not bad. I'd probably put in like A or B. It maybe is the best way to play Archaludon right now. It's definitely the Archaludon deck that's been doing the best in all the tournaments. It's the highest placing Archaludon deck. I do really like Archaludon Zoroark, and I think Archaludon Zoroark is still a good deck, and I like it a lot. I think Poison Bridge is probably, well, one's going to be more common. I'd probably place it in B tier. I could say A tier. It's honestly a pretty good deck. Like, it does have a good matchup into Dragapult, and I would imagine your Guardian matchup is a little bit better than the Zoroark version of the deck. But this deck is a little less consistent than the Zoroark build, but you just get more power. You also get a better matchup in a Goldengo, which is a good thing for the deck. Having a better Dango matchup is a way better trade-off than having a better matchup versus... I mean, yeah. I would say your Dragapult matchup is slightly worse than the Zoroark version of the deck, but the Poison package does elevate the deck a lot more versus Goldengo, which is a good thing. Next up is Raging Bolt. It's probably another B tier deck. Like, spoiler, there's a lot of decks in B tier right now. A lot of decks that are, like, just below the top percentage of the best decks right now, if that makes any sense. So, like, looking at this meta, it's like, Raging Bolt is a good deck. In theory, it beats Dragapult. In theory, it maybe can beat Goldengo right now just because of how the deck is being built with Fan Rotom and stuff. You don't have to actually put a 2-prizer down unless you have to. The Guardy matchup, though, is, like, kind of shaky. Like, it's just another big dragon deck that probably struggles in a Guardy. You do have a lot of one-prize attackers you can throw at your opponent, like the Baby Raging Bull. You have the Koraidon, the Slitherwing, whatever one-prizer you want to play. Rotom can attack, too. But at the end of the day, I don't think your Guardy matchup is the greatest. Like, Gardevoir doesn't even have to use Drifloon against you. That's how bad the matchup is. Because you can play Jamming Tower, but it's not going to make much of a difference when they just Benchicle Fairy and then beat you down with, like, Screamtail or something. So, probably, like, B tier. Raging Bolt is good, but it's not perfect. It also doesn't always beat Dragapult. Dragapult is a strong enough deck where you can still beat Raging Bolt. It's a scary matchup, but Dragapult still can beat Raging Bolt in a lot of scenarios, and Goldengo is also one of those matchups where it's like, it can be 50-50. Next up is Terapagos. This one's weird. I would probably still place Terapagos in B tier. It's a pretty solid deck still. It doesn't have the best matchup in a Gardevoir, and that's like one thing I don't like about it. Your Guardy matchup isn't very good. So you're taking a bit of a rougher matchup versus Guardy, but you're not bad into like other decks. Like, you're not bad into Dragapult, Goldengo, depending on what Cornerstone tech they play. It's not the end of the world either. But I don't know. It's like a perfectly fine and average deck. I'd probably just place it in the lower half of B tier. Like, I think this deck is starting to get phased out of the format. I think its time was only really in Atlanta where everyone was like, oh, this deck's broken. And then I think it's now the meta's developing. I think the deck is starting to fall off to, like, I think it's probably just like a B tier deck right now, in my opinion. It's very much falling off. I would even start to say it'd be a C tier deck, but it has been getting decent enough results where it's like I can't really classify it as a C tier deck, but it is starting to fall off in a C tier category because I think the deck definitely starting to take some worse matchups into the format right now. For Alligator, I'd probably place C tier, B tier, D tier, C tier, one of the two. It's like we haven't seen the deck actually do well in this format yet. You also have a bad matchup in a Gardevoir and Goldengo. Probably D tier. I want for Alligator to be good so bad. I think the deck is sick, but it's just probably not the right time to play it. Or if you are somebody who plays for Alligator, maybe you just have to build a good 60 that you can master. It just doesn't feel like the best time to play the Gator right now. Frostlass, probably C tier. I know the deck has been getting decent placements recently in tournaments. Like, it even got top 8 at the Seville SP. I wouldn't really think Frostlass anything more than a C tier deck right now, though. Like, I don't think enough good players are going to play it, and it's not the most consistent deck ever either, right? It's a cool deck, don't get me wrong, but it's not as consistent as other decks in the format, and that's kind of the issue. I think it's just inconsistencies do hold it back. Slowking, I'd probably place in D tier. I like this deck a lot. It's really fun to play. I just did a video on it on the main channel. but it's not consistent enough to really classify it any more than a D tier. Sarah Ledge, probably D tier. Sarah Ledge honestly doesn't even seem like a terrible deck right now, to be honest with you, but we just haven't seen the deck perform well yet. I still have to try the deck myself, so maybe my opinion is going to change very soon if I make a video on the deck and I'm like, oh, this deck's actually kind of lit. But for now, I think Sarah Ledge is like D tier. I just don't play it. Same thing with Walls, another D tier deck. We haven't seen Walls do well in this format yet. Did well in Japan, and then, yeah, overseas is like, oh, no, Walls ends up just sucking. So, yeah, Walls probably D tier. I don't think anyone's going to debate that. Next up is the Joltik box deck. I'd probably place this at the top of B tier. Joltik box definitely feels like it's starting to catch a lot of steam right now. It's doing pretty good in online tournaments, and it's starting to do really good at the past few tournaments at Monterey and the SFL SPE. So this deck has been putting up a lot of good numbers right now, and I think that will continue into Milwaukee, where we're going to see a lot of this Joltik deck still perform well in that tournament. So I'd probably place Joltik box in B tier for sure. Next up, Noctowl Charizard. Man, this deck is really powerful, but I gotta place it in D tier. There's just no reason to play Terra Charizard when it's like the deck just isn't gonna function under Budu. Like you're not beating Dragapult. You're probably not beating Gardevoir. You can maybe beat Gardevoir, but like you're probably a lot more consistent than the Pidgeot build, to be honest with you. But I just don't think you're just not beating Dragapult, man. I don't know, just playing a deck that just loses to like the most popular and best deck in the format. Just don't do it, man. Don't do it. You can play it. You can dodge Dragapult all day, but I still think the deck is like C tier. Blissey, or D tier, sorry. Blissey is C tier for sure. I think Blissey had its time to shine at the Monterey Regionals. I think it's a cool deck, but I can't call it any more than a C tier deck. It doesn't have a good Gardevoir matchup, and your Goldengo matchup also isn't great. Actually, your Goldengo matchup is probably fine because you have Cornerstone, but I think that overall Blissey is just it's a fine deck. It's one of these like Frostlass type decks where it's like, it's cool, it got to shine, but I don't think it's going to really put up any more good results after that one run at Monterey. Because it really only just beats Dragapult, and like everything else is like kind of shaky. So it's just very much a C tier deck in my opinion. It's not the worst deck you can bring to a tournament. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be surprised to see it in day 2 again. It's just probably its time to shine was really at Monterey, and until we see the meta start to evolve again and change, I don't think Blissey's going to have another top A run like it did before. Maybe a day 2 run. It'll probably get day 2 at Milwaukee. I'm not gonna lie. We'll probably see a Blissey in day 2 at Milwaukee, but I just don't see the deck having a deep run like it did at Monterey. It's just not gonna happen again. But there you go. That is my tier list for the best decks in the format right now. Realistically, like any other deck you could probably think of that I didn't list on here is probably just in C tier, maybe B tier. But yeah, I think this is like probably an accurate tier list. Like I think the best decks right now are both Guardian Pult. Behind that, we have Goldengo, which is A tier, because Goldengo doesn't really have any like standout bad matchups like Goldengo and Dragapult. Or Gardevoir and Dragapult. Like, there's no standout bad matchups, but it's just like a tier below Dragapult and Guardy's power level, but the deck is really good. Then everything else in B tier, they're pretty solid decks. They can beat the 3 big decks that they want, but they're not always as consistent and strong as those 3 decks. And then everything like below it is like fine and not that good. But yeah, there you go, folks. That is my tier list for the Milwaukee Regionals. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll leave a link to the tier list down below if you want to go try it for yourself. And let me know what you think of this tier list. What do you think of my rankings? Stuff like that. I'm interested to hear down below. Catch y'all in another video here very soon. Bye-bye.